Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Solar 101 Switch Together webinar. My name is Olivia Burns. I'm an environmental specialist with Clark County's Office of Sustainability, supporting the All in Clark County initiative. We're excited to share our new program, Switch Together, giving residents access to no obligation, competitive pricing on rooftop solar, battery storage, and EV charging. Brought to you through All in Clark County in partnership with nonprofit Solar United Neighbors. Joining us to present today is Julia Hubbard, Nevada Program Director with Solar United Neighbors. Before I pass it over to Julia to get us started on Switch Together and Solar 101, I'll share a few tips to enhance your presentation experience and navigate the website. Firstly, you can translate the entire meeting page and or the live audio into another language by clicking the Translate button and selecting a language from the Translate drop-down menu. Closed captions are also available for this presentation by clicking the CC button on the bottom right corner of the presentation page. Another way to interact with us is by putting comments and questions in the chat box next to the presentation live stream. If you think of a question during the presentation, please put them there and we'll have time to review those at the end. This presentation is being recorded and will be available on Clark County's Department of Environment and Sustainability YouTube channel afterwards. Lastly, if you have any difficulties viewing or hearing the presentation at any time, please refresh the meeting page. Now I'll pass it over to Julia to get us started. Thank you.
Thanks, Olivia, and thank you so much to Clark County All In. It's great to be able to partner with you all on this program. Give me one moment while I pull up my screen. All right, can everyone see that? All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's great to be here with you all today. While we're waiting for people to join the live stream, I just want to invite people to share your name and what brought you here in the chat. It's always great to learn why people are interested in going solar. My name is Julia, use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Nevada Program Director of Solar United Neighbors. And I'm also joined by some colleagues who will be supporting the chat and also chiming in when needed. So I'll turn it over to my colleague Allison and let her introduce herself.
Thanks, Julia. Thanks, Olivia. I'm so happy to be here with you all. My name is Allison Farr, she, her pronouns. I'm with Solar United Neighbors or Son of Nevada as well. And I am a community organizer here in Nevada. I am located in Las Vegas, North Las Vegas to be specific. And I'm delighted to be with you and support Julia in this presentation. And I will be passing it along to Fred from iChooser. Fred, take it away.
Thank you, Allison. Good to be here with everybody tonight. My name is Fred Wu, he, him pronouns. I work for a company called iChooser. We support Solar United Neighbors in offering these Switch Together programs in a variety of places around the country, including in Clark County. Happy to be with you all tonight. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's get going. So, who is Sun? We are a national nonprofit that works in Nevada as well as 12 other states. And we're really looking forward to providing this program, this bulk buy. It's the first one that we are doing in Nevada with iChooser, and we're delighted. Who is Sun? We are building a democratic movement to create a more just energy system by helping people go solar, join together, and fight for their energy rights. So this is really our theory of change. And since 2007, we've helped over 12,000 families go solar. Fundamentally, we believe that everyone has the right to produce and use their own solar energy, and that folks should have access to reliable but also affordable power, and that solar owners should be receiving a fair credit for the energy that they produce. You already met us, but here's just some nice photos of us. I'm based up in Reno, and Allison's down south, and we are your Nevada team. We're going to cover a lot of ground today, but hopefully we'll have an opportunity to get to questions. I'm thinking that content will be about 50 minutes total. So let's dive in. Let's get started with solar technology. So how do solar panels work? Panels convert sunlight to energy. You can kind of think of it like photosynthesis with plant leaves. The panels are absorbing that light and dislodging the electrons that are then creating a current. And we'll show a couple more slides about that later on. In fact, here is a great slide that breaks it down. You can see the panels there. Think of them as the collectors. They're sitting on your roof and catching the sunlight and turning that into electricity. And then in the middle of your screen, you'll see that box. That is called the inverter. And this is usually installed on the outside of your house or perhaps also in your garage. And it's going to translate that solar power into regular power that your fridge and TV use. So from a DC current to an AC current. So there's a couple of things to think about before going solar, and one is your roof. So the ideal roof orientation for panels is south-facing, right? Getting all of that sunshine. But east and west-facing roofs can also work, and it's just going to depend on your particular roof. One thing that you want to consider is shading, because anything that is blocking the sun is going to affect the production of your panels, right? That is less sunlight that your panels are receiving. You also want to consider the amount of space on your roof. Each panel is typically about 3 by 5 feet. So you'll want to make sure you have enough space on your roof to accommodate all of your panels. And then finally, you'll want to consider the age and the quality of your roof. If you do have an older roof, it might make sense to replace your roof before going solar. Solar panels can last up to 25 years or longer, and so it just makes sense to have a roof that is going to also be able to last that long. We already spoke a little bit about the roof, but there's also a couple of other questions to consider whether your home is solar ready, we like to say. How energy efficient is your home? This is essentially how tight your home is. Whether your windows, your doors, your insulation is really doing its job to keep that air out, whether that's hot or cold. But also, how efficient are your appliances? Maybe you want to add an HVAC, a new HVAC heat pump, or even consider some other upgrades. And that's all going to affect your usage, which is considered when factoring the size of your system. And you might even consider doing an energy audit. Those are professionals that are going to come into your home and tell you exactly what you should upgrade, perhaps the insulation you should add, and that can be really helpful too. And finally, the last thing we encourage people to consider is the age of their electrical panel and if you might need an upgrade. And your installer will talk you through that as well. All right, so let's get into the system components themselves. So the panels are going to really vary regarding how many watts they produce. So you will likely get about a 450 watt proposal or 425, somewhere in there. One thing that to know is that the panel's efficiency has continued to increase over time. We're just seeing technology continue to improve. So as of 5 years ago, we maybe had 325 watt panels, and now we're seeing 450 watt panels, which is great because you're able to produce and generate more solar energy. Racking is another component that's part of the system, and racking is the rails that are being screwed onto the roof and the panels are being clipped to those. There are different types of racking depending on the different roofs out there. And some folks are concerned about whether they can go solar with a tile roof. Down in the Vegas Valley, we have a lot of tile roofs, and certainly solar can be installed on these roofs, even concrete tile roofs, but there might be an additional charge. It's just something that you should talk with your installer about and to ask. Another component that's part of your system is the inverter. So that inverter is converting that direct current energy, which is what your panels are generating, to an AC, an alternating current, which is what our everyday home appliances use. You don't need to stress too much about this. Again, you will likely talk this through with your installer. All right. And the electrical panel is really the heart of your home's electrical system. Most homes don't need upgrades before going solar, but it's something you should consider. One thing that's helpful to get straight when you're considering the systems is just the terminology. So a kilowatt is what your system is going to be measured in, and that's a unit of power. It's 1,000 watts. So in this image over on the right, we see that we have a 4.8 kilowatt solar panel array. So there's 12 panels, which make up the array, and each panel is 400 watts. And so to get that system size, you're just taking the number of panels and multiplying it by that particular panel wattage, which in this case is 400. So we get that 4.8 kilowatt system size. Kilowatt hours is a unit of energy, so it's essentially power over time, and it's what you're usually going to see on your utility bill. It's what your system is generating. In Nevada, we see systems anywhere between 8 kilowatts to 15 kilowatts. And to determine the size of your system, it's really going to depend on your specific home, your goals, what kind of budget you have, if you want to cover 100% of your consumption, your energy use. That is all going to be part of determining what works best for you. We can't talk about solar without talking about net energy metering. So net metering, or net energy metering, is the policy and mechanism for essentially receiving a credit on your bill for that additional energy that you are sending to the grid that you are not consuming. In Southern Nevada, we have monthly netting at 75% of the retail rate. So rather than getting a one-to-one credit, you are getting a 75% of the retail rate. Then NV Energy is turning around and selling that energy that you just produced at the full retail rate for your neighbor. So it's not true net metering, but it still is a really compelling financial proposition when you factor in those energy credits to applying to your your evening use later in the day. And down here, you'll just see the explanation for this, right? Net is your grid consumption, everything that you're pulling from the grid, your use, minus everything that you are sending to the grid is giving your net overall. All right, so another component that we're going to talk about today is batteries. Home storage battery can be a really nice addition to a solar system. Essentially, all of that daytime production, when you have a battery, that excess production, rather than going to the grid, can go to your battery first, and you can store that. And then when your panels stop generating in the evening, you can tap into that stored energy and not have to pull from the grid, right? Or potentially avoid a demand charge, which we don't see in Nevada yet, but we have heard talk of it. Also, batteries are the only way to make sure that you still have power when there is a power outage, because when the grid is down, your solar system will automatically shut off for the safety of electricity grid workers. And you might want to consider battery storage if your community has frequent utility outages. If you have specialized equipment on your property, this could include medical equipment, maybe it's a well, or if you just want to minimize your electricity bill and maximize your solar generation. And then also we see a lot of folks adding batteries for disaster and emergency preparedness, especially down in Florida, right? All of those hurricanes coming through. Oh, and the one last thing I'll say is that this is not yet a reality in Nevada, but we are hoping that it will become a reality where battery owners could, when they discharge their batteries during maybe a peak power event when the grid is really strained, they could be compensated for that energy that they're sharing with the grid. And this is something that we are advocating for in real time right now at the PUCN and also in the legislature. We have a whole guide devoted to batteries. So if you really want to take a deep dive, I would suggest scanning this QR code or heading to our website and getting a full read of all of the information we recommend there. And the last component that we're going to talk about today is Critter Guard. You may have seen some panels around and seen that folks are putting up Critter Guard. This can be a really helpful addition just because squirrels and pigeons, they love wires and they love to get underneath there and damage the wire or even build a nest. And this can be costly in terms of the repairs. So this will likely be an option when you are talking through your system. Some of the frequently asked questions that we really recommend folks to ask their installer as they're going through the process is, what are the warranties? This includes labor warranties, parts warranties. If you are opting for a purchase power agreement, you'll want to ask about the power production. And then homeowner insurance, usually panels are covered because they're part of the home, just like a pool. A lot of people ask about maintenance. It's really minimal, especially if you have the Critter Guard, right? You're protecting those wires, but you may need to wash your panels if there is a lot of particulate or dust in the air. And we do recommend that you hire someone to wash them. Oftentimes, if you have really hard water, that will leave streaks on the panels, and that can affect your production value as well. As I said before, systems generally last 20 to 25 years, but we are also hearing that they can last up to 30 years and longer. So again, can be a great investment where you are getting that solar generation far, far into the future. And finally, in terms of HOAs, rules can vary, but most in Southern Nevada will allow rooftop solar. You'll need to check in with your specific HOA about their rules, and they will likely have to approve an architectural package before a system can be installed. But again, your installer has done this a lot of times and can help shepherd you through that process. All right, we are moving right along. If you're still with me, go ahead and take a stretch, reach out, move those arms. Here we go. Unit 2, solar economics. One thing to know about solar is that it has really dropped in price from the 70s when it was still a very emerging technology to today, where it is a much more robust industry and technology has just continued to improve so that we are getting a better and better price. It can be an excellent return on investment. We like to include this image too, just to help you understand what is going in the cost of going solar. So you can see that yellow section, that's a good chunk of the system price. That's the system components, right? Those are your panels, the inverter, that critter guard, any of those components. But then you also have labor costs, right? That green section. And then there's actually the orange soft costs. So typically going solar, installers really have to work to get contracts, and they're spending a lot of money on marketing and really trying to get leads. With the Switch Together program, which is what we're going to be talking about shortly, they are not having to do any of that. And so they are able to offer a really competitive price, which is really exciting and is part of why we are so interested in this program, right? Of trying to make solar more accessible to folks. And we know that we have seen utility bills continue to rise, especially over the last year. So solar can be a great way of safeguarding you and your family from future bill hikes. You can think of it kind of as your own insurance from those rate hikes. All right, so just to start here, that this table is an example price only. It compares a 5 kilowatt to a 10 kilowatt system and is looking at the average Nevada switch together pricing. You are going to receive an estimate that is based on your usage needs, and that size is going to affect the pricing a little bit. So this is just an average, but this kind of gives you a snapshot of what you could anticipate for a 5 kilowatt or 10 kilowatt system. And you can see that this is with a cash offer. And with solar, just like purchasing a car, the best deal is going to be the cash offer. So that's just something that we like to share from the get-go. Depending on your system size, your price per watt, it will vary. So that's just something to be mindful of. This particular modeling that we did here was based off of someone who is consuming about 12,000 kilowatt hours per year. There's also estimating the utility bill will increase 2% every year. So again, this is just one example. You can see that as the years progress, right? Like when we think about 10 years or 25 years, your savings are going to continue to increase, right? From not having to pay that full utility bill, which we know in Southern Nevada can get high. So this is just a snapshot of how a solar system can be a really great return on investment. Now, it doesn't always work to have cash be an option for you. So there's also financing options, and you can consider getting a line of credit, refinancing to include solar. One thing about the Switch Together program is that the installer that has been chosen will be offering their own installer financing. They'll talk you through all of that. They are a great resource. If you want to look into other options beyond there's the National Clean Energy Credit Union, where you could look to get a solar loan. We also have our local green bank, the Nevada Clean Energy Fund, that also has financing products available. And what kind of financing options are there? I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this slide, but I just wanted to share it as a broad overview. And of course, you all will be seeing these slides as well later. But essentially, you can think of it as 3 different options with financing. You could get a loan, a lease, or a prepaid lease. And it's just going to vary in terms of ownership, in terms of the commercial tax credit being applied on that lease and prepaid lease, And then in terms of who is responsible for maintaining the system, if you own it, you're responsible. If you don't own it, like with the lease, that third party is responsible. And then some considerations to have when you sell your home. The short of it is you will likely have to pay off that remaining balance um, or transfer it to a buyer, depending on if you have a loan lease or prepaid lease. And again, financing really varies depending on your own financial circumstances, the goals you have. So it's really best just to talk to the installer, talk to Nevada Clean Energy Fund, just try and get your options and think about what is best for you and your own house. Sun does have a whole leasing guide that you can take a look at. It's our purchase power agreement and solar lease guide. And again, you can scan this QR code to get that or check it out on our website here by entering that into your URL. All right, we are making progress, folks. We are at Unit 3. So how does this Switch Together bulk buy program work? Let's talk about it. So, Solar United Neighbors has partnered with iChooser to run this bulk buy program called Switch Together. Essentially, you can sign up to go solar or add battery storage and get a competitive price from an installer who has bid to be part of this program and to win a group of installs. So that is kind of the model in short form, you could say. Um, and you might be asking, why should I join Switch Together? And the long and short of it, it's a great deal that you wouldn't be able to get on solar without, right? Because the concept is hundreds of people are able to go solar, and so that installer is able to offer a competitive price that they wouldn't necessarily be able to offer just to an individual person who is going solar on their own. Another thing to consider is that you're getting support throughout the process. Sun is here to answer any questions. The iChooser team as well is around and can help navigate you through the process. There's also a ton of other people that are going solar together, so it's a great way to build community with other solar enthusiasts. And then it's also being part of a growing solar movement, right? Of how we can have more local clean energy that is harvested in our backyards so that we are avoiding the build out of big peaker power plants that can be pretty expensive, and we can see that cost show up on our utility bill. A big part of the reason to go solar too is that we have vetted these installers. iChooser runs a very thorough financial background check, has looked into the equipment supply, really the business model, the reviews and the quality of the workforce. That has all been considered in terms of determining the installer for this program. So you know that you are going to get a quality system and have a good experience when you sign up for the Switch Together program. And that can be a big part of someone's decision, especially in Nevada, when we unfortunately have seen a lot of scammy companies out there and bad actors. So we're here to take care of you in this process. So how does the actual registration process work? So I'm gonna skip ahead to this page for a moment, and this is our registration page. So you can head there, and there's gonna be a QR code shortly, but once you sign up on the registration, you're gonna get taken to just a questionnaire. It's a short survey that just asks a little bit about your energy usage, your roof type, the size of your home, just some basic details that help produce an estimate of your system size as well as the system cost. Again, that's just an estimate. You're going to get a much more dialed in offer once you talk to the installer and really go through what your needs are, what you're thinking about. It's really important to consider that when you go through the process as well. Then, when you get that personal recommendation that has the estimate of the system and the size, you will get prompted to accept your offer, and at that point, asked to pay a $150 refundable deposit. This is refundable, so if you choose to not move forward, you'll get that deposit back. But it's just a way of us kind of sussing out who is serious about the program and is really interested in moving forward. Then at that point, the installer will reach out to you about the specific design of your system and talk through any questions you have. This is a great time to chat through financing options if you're interested in that, and really dial in your system. And then if you sign your contract and decide to go solar, then we'll move forward with an installation. And once that system is installed, which can be anywhere between, we like to say like 6 and 8 weeks, it really just depends. You'll go through the interconnection process and then be able to start saving on your electric bill once you are interconnected. There's that landing page again. And here is our QR code. So this will take you to the Clark County Switch Together registration page. Again, it's free and easy to sign up. You can just enter in your email and then at that point, fill out that survey and shortly get that personal recommendation, that offer for your household. We're also trying to spread the word about this program. So if you know of folks who are interested in going solar, go ahead and share this out with them. It takes everyone to learn about these programs, right? And I think that brings us up to questions. I'm curious if we have anything from the chat that people want to talk through. Yeah, go ahead,
Awesome.
Olivia.
Yeah, I could pull up the questions. Thank you, Julia, so much for sharing all about Switch Together and solar. And then I know the Sun team had answered a lot of the questions in the chat, so thank you so much. But I'll just read them out loud in case anybody has similar questions as well, and you guys can continue to put questions in the chat. All right. First questions is how much maintenance does solar need?
Yeah, and it seems like I think we covered that, but again, minimal maintenance. It's really if you can install that critter guard, you're going to safeguard your panels and avoid any pigeons or squirrels getting up there. But then again, if there's just any dust in the air and you're noticing that there's a drop in your production, you might want to consider getting your panels washed. And some people do it on their own, but you should be mindful of whether you have hard water, because that hard water can leave streaks and also affect the production of the panels.
Great, thank you. Another question that was answered in the chat, but just for anybody, is monthly payments available for and other finance options?
Yes, I can go back to that financing page just so folks can take a look at that. There are monthly payments available, and again, it's really going to be individualized to your particular financial circumstances. So I would just really encourage you to start the process, get an estimate from the installer. If you are serious about it, then put that refundable deposit down and then chat with them to really see what kind of financing options they have. They'll have a loan, they'll have a lease, they'll have a prepaid lease. And we're not going to go into specifics because we just can't, since it will depend on your own specific circumstances. And then also connect with NSF or the Clean Energy Credit Union if you want to get other options too. But we were we were glad that our installer also offered a financing package, and that installer is SolUp as well. I don't think I mentioned that.
Thank you. And it looks like there's one more question in the chat. If I register today for my quote, I have until October 21st to put down a deposit. Is that correct?
Um, yes, I think I would encourage you to put the deposit down sooner, rather than later. You do have that time, but I think you won't get more information until you put down the deposit. So it's kind of part of the flow, and you'll have access to a better understanding about the system, what those monthly payments could be, what kind of cash offer could be. That's all going to be more clear once you put down a deposit.
Great. Thank you so much. And there's still time if anybody has any other questions that they could put in the chat. Now I could share just a few of our upcoming events. And
And maybe Olivia, before we move on to upcoming events, I forgot to mention our solar help desk. So I'll just take a couple of minutes to mention that here. So Sun has a national solar help desk, and this is available to everyone and anyone if you're interested about going solar. If you have a solar system and maybe you have questions or are struggling with your installer, or your installer has gone out of business, or your panels aren't producing, pretty much any and every solar question you might have, our solar help desk is there to help. You can schedule a call with them, you can chat with them via email. We also do roof reviews and proposal comparisons. So if you're unsure if your roof is a good fit for solar, you can definitely reach out to our solar help desk, and they'll offer and provide a free roof review for you. And then if you do have a couple of proposals that you are really wanting to evaluate and get a sense of, the Solar Help Desk will also do a proposal comparison. We won't necessarily say, oh, you should go with this or that one, but we will try and highlight the important considerations that you should have in evaluating the proposals. And that's our Solar Help Desk. So feel free to reach out.
Great. Thank you so much, Julia. Then a few more questions did pop up in the chat. Will this program be available next year?
Great question. We are hoping to run this program next year. So if that's something you're interested, if it's too soon for now, be on the lookout for it next year.
Thank you. And last question is, does this program include manufactured homes that may need a freestanding system?
That's a great question. I believe our installer does do ground mounts as well. So I would again just encourage you to fill out the questionnaire, because I think they do ask that. Ground mount systems are a little bit more expensive, I think, than roof systems. So you'll just want to factor that in, and that will be something that I think the installer will talk to you about if you do qualify for the program. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And there's a lot of links in the chat. You guys could go look at, looks like the team dropped in the Nevada Clean Energy Fund, the Switch Together homepage, so you could get your quote and look at more information on there. So thank you so much for those links. And then again, if you have another question, feel free to put it in the chat while I talk about some of our upcoming events.
Awesome. I will stop sharing. And yeah, if you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to our Nevada team at solarunitedneighbors.org.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, just lastly, before we go, here's some upcoming events we have here at All in Clark County. I encourage you to stay updated on our events page and our newsletter that you could sign up for. where you could learn more about Switch Together and some of our upcoming. We have some Solar 101s that'll be in person as well. And then more information on the help desk so you could get connected with them. So the link is allinclarkcounty.com/events where you should be viewing the live stream. So you can scroll up to register for our newsletter. We also have a monthly webinar series on a bunch of different sustainability topics, so you could register for those as well. Our social media is at Clark County DES. So if you want to stay updated through Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, you could do that as well. We will also be at Project Reach, a senior expo brought to you by United Way of Southern Nevada and NV Energy. So if you like more information on home energy efficiency, you could stop by the All in Clark County booth. Let me just double check, make sure if there's any other questions in the chat before we end the live stream.
Yeah, and just a note, we'll be having office hours. I think the first office hours is tomorrow. So if you do have any questions that come up between now and then, join us. It'll be just me hanging out, and I'm happy to talk through things at greater detail. If you have questions specific about your proposal, we can also connect you directly to the installer. Yes, and Allison also just added, we also have a coffee chat. So Sun will buy you a coffee and we will chat all things solar, including this Switch Together program on August 21st. From 2 to 4 p.m. at Desiree Wins Coffee Roaster. I might be saying that wrong, but pardon me
That's
if I
my
am.
typo. Apologies. Desert.
Desert.
Win.
Desert Wins Coffee Roaster. That makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining today's webinar to learn more about solar and the Switch Together program. And another special thank you to Julia for presenting and all this helpful information. But that is the end of today's webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, Olivia. Thanks for joining, everyone.